Hi everyone. So tonight I am filming a video about something that's very, very important, and I feel like it is a tragedy that has happened in our family, but it's also something that can happen in any family. And I have waited to talk about this and go public with this because, well, for several reasons. Um, but I can't wait any longer. I need to get our family's story out so that I can hopefully help another family. If one family, hears our story and is saved from this craziness, it'll be worth it. It's not easy to go public with family tragedies and with things that have happened that are so painful to talk about. But I just hope and pray that our family's situation will somehow our story will somehow get out there. And that's why I'm going to YouTube to hopefully um reach reach hundreds, thousands of people, so that we can get these predators off the street. Sorry for such a long intro. So I'll start here. This story involves my daughter and my grandson. It started March 1st, 2014. I was going through a divorce, and myself and my two children were living with my mother. We live in the Pacific Northwest, and my daughter at the time was 16. 3 days after her 17th birthday, March 1st, my daughter disappeared in the middle of the night. Well, it was about 5:30 in the morning. I was asleep. I was woken up by my mom coming into my room and asking me where my daughter was. The night before, everything was fine. We had a family dinner. Nothing was out of the ordinary. My daughter, I gave her a hug and kiss goodnight, just like I did and have done every night of her life. She went to her room. We went to sleep, and I had no idea what horrors awaited us. So 5:30 in the morning, I'm awoken by my mom coming in my room saying to me, "Do you know where your daughter is? Do you know where she is?" I'm not going to say her name on here, but do you know where she is? And I immediately woke up. No, what's going on? She should be in her room. What do you mean? She's like, she's not in her room. I heard my mom said she was woken up by a car door shutting and a car driving off. And where my mom lives is out in a rural area, so there's not a lot of traffic at 5:30 in the morning out here. There's only a few houses in her subdivision, so it was alarming and definitely a different sound, at that time of the morning that she was used to hearing. I immediately jumped up out of bed, ran into my daughter's room, and sure enough, she was gone. My 12-year-old son at the time had gone to visit his dad for the weekend, so he wasn't home. He, didn't hear anything, and obviously he wasn't home. I searched and searched her room. I later found a note. A few minutes later, found a note that said, "Mom, I've ran away. I'll email you with the information, with details." This was at 5:30 in the morning. About 6:30 in the morning, I received an email from my daughter stating that she is saying, "Mom, I'm 3 months pregnant. Don't worry, I'm safe. I'm with family." And I'm like, "What? You're 3 months pregnant?" I didn't even know she had a boyfriend. I didn't know my daughter was having sex. I knew nothing. Up until this point, my daughter was the absolute, just a joy of a child. She still is a joy. She's a joy of a human being. Never did I have any inkling that my daughter was involved in anything remotely like this. And when and like I said, I didn't know I didn't know she had a boyfriend. I didn't know she was seeing anyone. I knew nothing. So I immediately contacted her father, who lives on the other side of our state, because that's the first place I thought she had went. Excuse my voice. I'm in the middle of a cold right now, so I apologize if I'm clearing my throat a lot. I also apologize in advance for saying and but and all those weird words and if I say them several times. I'm sorry. I'm definitely not a pro on YouTube. So anyway, I digress. Contacted her father. He immediately was in a panic. This was absolutely not, totally out of character for our daughter to disappear, and let alone the fact that she was pregnant. I mean, like I said, my daughter has always been very, very what's the word? Just very modest. I was just completely taken aback, but I thought, and I immediately tried calling her and texting her and emailing her, and of course, excuse me, her phone was shut off. She wasn't taking my calls, which, didn't surprise me. Obviously, she was running away with this boy, so I thought, I had no idea that my daughter, I didn't know. First of all, we were thinking that she was still in town, that she had, ran away to a friend's house or with a boyfriend. No way was I prepared for what the next 6 days would entail. This happened on a Saturday. I immediately called the cops, got a hold of the police, searched my daughter's phone bill, because I provide her phone, so I was able to go in and look at all the numbers that she had called. I immediately noticed she had called a cab company at 5 o'clock in the morning. Called the cab company. I was like, hey, you picked up my daughter. What can you tell me? Where did you take her? And I said, she's a minor. You need to give me this information. And of course, I was not a very pleasant person to deal with on the phone, because I was furious that my minor child was able to get a cab and leave in the middle of the night and run away. And I just, excuse me, sorry, I'm just doing this here, was totally furious. Like, tell me where you took my daughter. And I was met with, sorry, ma'am, we're not going to tell you anything. If the only way we're going to give this information is going to be to the police, and they're going to have to subpoena this information. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? My daughter's missing. I have no idea where she is. So I immediately call the police, get them on the phone. I'm like frantic, telling them my daughter's been missing. Well, how long has she been missing? Well, she left sometime around 5:30 this morning. I have no idea where she is. She said she's pregnant. I was in a full panic mode, and they were like, ma'am, just calm down. Teenagers do this all the time. It's going to be fine. She'll show up. I'm like, no, you don't understand. My daughter doesn't do this all the time. This is completely uncharacteristic for her. I know something is wrong. I felt in my heart that my daughter was in danger, more than just that she had run away from home. I just felt in my heart that she was far away, and I didn't know why I felt that way, but I just knew somehow. So that was Saturday. I gave the police, all the information that I had, which, was basically nothing, just an email stating she was pregnant, and, I'll send you more information later. And I tried calling her probably 100 times, begging her, text messaging her, emailing her, please tell me where you are. What's going on? We can work this out. It's okay that you're pregnant. I'm not mad. I also was a teen mom. I was 19, but I told her, like, you're not in trouble. I will support you. I'm here for you and the baby. Just come home. Let's talk about this. And so I never heard from my daughter again until maybe it was the next day, when she sent me another email telling me not to get the cops involved, that she wasn't going to come home, and there was just nothing I could do, that I just needed to just leave me alone, Mom. I'm happy where I'm at. And I'm like, like hell I'm going to leave you alone. I am here. I am your mom, and I'm not letting you throw your life away. So on Monday, which was like day 3 of her being missing and her running away, I knew that she wasn't alone. I knew that somebody was involved. I just, I figured it was her boyfriend, the guy that got her pregnant, but I had no idea who he really was. So when the sheriff actually came to the house the 3rd day, I gave another report of and it was a little bit more further in depth. And the police officer, or the sheriff, told me at that time, he said, "Ma'am, I am concerned that your daughter is a victim of sex trafficking, and we are getting the FBI involved." And I was like, "What? Why?" And so then they later told me, like the next day, that they had contacted the cab company. The cab company had let them know that they had taken my daughter to the airport. Then they looked, got a hold of TSA, looked at the records, and it was a 35-year-old man who had purchased my child's plane ticket. And he had flown her to New York, to JFK. And I absolutely felt like I couldn't breathe. I was so terrified. So terrified. I can't even begin to explain how absolutely devastating it was. At that point, of course, I was reaching out on Facebook, and a missing and exploited children organization got in touch with me. They created a missing poster for my daughter. About 2 weeks before this all went down, my daughter had gotten her braces off, and I took the most adorable picture of her in my car, smiling with her pretty teeth. And that picture was totally ruined for me because I had to use that as the main photograph for her missing poster. That was devastating. That was traumatizing. And so all I knew is my child had flown into JFK with a man in his 30s. Nearly, I was 37 at the time, so he's just a couple years younger than me. And I was so terrified for her safety. I just couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I just couldn't even. I didn't know how I was going to survive. So day 5 comes around. The police department, the FBI had contacted the police department in this town in New Jersey, where they had located this predator who had taken my daughter, who had been grooming her. And meanwhile, while all this is going on, the police have delved into my child's Facebook. They found Facebook messages from this man from when my child was 14 years old. They found that he was talking to her and grooming her, and he pretended to be a 15-year-old boy. Then he, of course, later on changed his language and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm actually a little bit older. I'm 19." And then it was, "Oh, no, I'm actually 21." And he had asked my daughter, "I hope you're not mad, but how would you feel if I was a little bit older?" And that's when he said, "I'm 21. Really, he's in his 30s. So this is part of the grooming process. So meanwhile, unbeknownst to me, my daughter was, lying. He was telling her the things to say, to lie. He was flying out here. He flew out here on a few different occasions and had sex with my child. All before her running away. And as soon as she became pregnant, that's when he put his plan into action and convinced her to run away and come live with him in New Jersey. So he came out here, he flew her back to New Jersey, and on day 5 is when the police came. They told me everything that they had found. They said they were concerned my daughter was part of a sex trafficking ring, and that they were going to do everything they could. They contacted the police department in this town where my daughter was, where this man lived, and they got the SWAT team together, and on day 6 they went in and stormed the place, and it was actually his mother's house, I think. and they ended up getting a hold of him over the phone, and they said, you need to bring her to the police station. He did. They arrested him, I think, for a short time, got my daughter into custody, and then they released him because the age of consent in New Jersey is 17. My daughter had just turned 17, but he had been grooming her and having sex with her since she was 15 years old, which in my state is against the law, is rape in the third degree. So, I fly out to New Jersey. I get my daughter on day 7. A family member flew out there with me. When the police had gotten my daughter the day before away from this man, they took her to the hospital and confirmed her pregnancy. She was about 3 months along. We get her home. I immediately get her into into counseling. So she's able to talk with the counselor on her own about all these things. So she didn't have the pressure of me, bombarding her with questions. And, I, of course, was an absolute wreck. I didn't know how to deal with any of this. I didn't know how to even unpack any of what had happened to my child and to our family subsequently. I didn't trust my daughter. I was angry at my daughter. And then again, I was terrified for my daughter. I was terrified for this new baby that was coming along. I just didn't. I had so many emotions and so many questions about how to help my child and what to do for my child to get her back on track, to make sure that she graduated high school and was able to raise her baby. And I knew that I was going to support her in any way that I could. And I knew I was going to love the baby so much. But I had so many there was no one there. There was no counseling. There was no help. There was nothing there. There was no one. There was no resources to help us deal with this situation. Meanwhile, this man was ordered to never have contact with my daughter again. The day my daughter got home, he was calling and texting and continuing his evil, just insidious communication with her. And she was in love with him because she believed, we're going to be a family and it's going to be beautiful and wonderful and all this foolishness, because he had totally convinced her that we were wrong, I was wrong, our family was wrong, we were bad, and he was right. So months go by. She has my grandson. We fall madly in love with this little guy. He's just an amazing, amazing little miracle. He is the silver lining. He is love squared. He is all things wonderful. And I adore him. I absolutely adore him. All of us do. Our entire family adores him. So she's home, and right before her 18th birthday, I just kept having these fears and dreams that he was going to convince her to come back out there when she was 18. And sure enough, a few days after her 18th birthday, she disappeared again in the middle of the night, this time with my grandson, who was 9 months old at the time. Finally, several days later, she contacted me and was like, Mom, I'm sorry, I'm going to live out here with him and try to be a family, and, he's convinced me that I have to be out here, or he's going to take the baby away from me. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I was in total despair. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea that this guy had murdered a girl in 2012, and that's still an open investigation. But he is absolutely guilty of it. He is going through all that process right now and has been for the last several years. He also did the same thing to another girl, got her pregnant. She was 15, where my daughter was 16 when she got pregnant, but 15 when he started sexually molesting her, raping her. And he has an older child from that situation. And he knew that my daughter was underage. And so when his other child would come visit, when my daughter and grandson had moved in with him after she turned 18, he told his other child that my daughter was the dog walker, because he knew my daughter was underage. I mean, yes, she had just turned 18, but she was very young, and he knew that. And so he was telling his other child that my daughter was the dog walker because he didn't want to alert his other child's mother that he had another young girl in his possession. Of course, I could do nothing because my child was now 18 years old. It was 1 year. They were gone for 1 year. It was absolutely heartbreaking. I didn't get to see my daughter or grandson for a year. I bought them three plane tickets to come home and visit. He would never allow her to leave. He would never allow her to be on the phone. He would take the internet connection when he would go to work so that my daughter couldn't contact anyone. She then figured out a way to get Wi-Fi through somebody's apartment or something that lived closely so she could start calling me. And on Easter Sunday, 2016, he tried to kill my daughter and grandson with a chair. He tried to bash my daughter's skull in. And thank God, God saved her and my grandson. And my daughter called me immediately and said, "Please, Mom, help me. Please get me home." And I did. I got them home, flew them home. She had to leave while he was at work, take the baby, get in the cab and go. And it was terrifying. Was he going to come home? Was he going to catch them? What's going to happen? So they get home. It was absolute elation to see my babies again. They came home April 5th. By the end of April, early May, the monster had filed emergency custody papers saying my daughter had taken the baby out of the state and just ran away, and he got away with it. I mean, they weren't married. This guy was a predator who raped my teenage daughter and impregnated her. He groomed her. He convinced her to run away. And now he's filing all these papers and my daughter has to go to court. And long story short, we didn't know anything about the court process. I had no money to fight this whole thing. And he filed an emergency habeas corpus and was able to come here to our town and take custody of my grandson and go back to New Jersey with him. That was a horrendous day. Horrendous day. So I had a very good friend who loaned me a few $1,000s, and I was able to retain a very good attorney, send my daughter back to New Jersey. I retained a New Jersey attorney. Within a few days, we had my grandson back into my daughter's custody. But it was only a temporary custody order. My daughter had to stay in New Jersey for 1 full year and live in victims' housing, have no car, no driver's license, no access to anything, and live in victims' housing, which thankfully was like a little apartment for her and the baby. But it was, I mean, she had no family, no one. She was alone. She was in that town where she knew no one. She had very little money. The state of New Jersey, she was able to get on assistance in the state of New Jersey because she wasn't able to find a job. She wasn't able to do anything because her job day and night was constantly fighting and working over this case to win, to be able to come home. Now, this man kidnapped my daughter in the middle of the night when she had just turned 17, and I know she went with him willingly, but he groomed her. She never would have done this if he hadn't have been grooming her from the age of 14 years old, which is a crime. There's a reason that there's laws that adults can't have sex with children. There's a reason for that. This man is a predator, and he convinced my daughter to run away so that he could have access to her and he could molest her and abuse her. One thing is, when my daughter was living with him, she had her iPad. And when he would go on, because he's an alcoholic, and when he would go on his drunken tirades and start threatening her and the baby and threatening their lives, my daughter would always hit record on her iPad every time she could. And she recorded him beating down the door and threatening her life and threatening the baby's life. And those audio recordings were absolutely just so pivotal in our court case, and the judge was able to see what kind of an individual this man is. he got up there on the stand and told the judge, oh, poor me, she took my son out of the state and I love my son and I'm just a loving father that cares about my son. He threw my daughter and grandson outside in the middle of November in the snow, in the cold. My grandson had nothing but a onesie and a diaper on. My daughter didn't even have shoes on, and they were out in the cold for hours. He would lock her out if he caught her talking on the phone to her family or friends. This man is a monster. And anyways, long story short, my daughter went to New Jersey. We had a year-long trial. In June of 2017, the judge made her final decision and allowed my daughter and grandson to come home, gave my daughter full physical custody, and gave this monster visitation, where he was able to come here to our state to see him, and he can have 1 weekend a month, and he has to have, he has to have phone calls and Skype calls at least 5 days a week to keep the relationship between him and my grandson, so that my grandson knows who he is, to keep himself, so that my grandson doesn't, so he doesn't think he's a stranger. He is not. They have been home since August 2nd, 2017. This individual has never made one phone call or one Skype call to my grandson. My daughter has made available she has made Skype, a special Skype. She has her phone number available to him. He can call and talk to his son anytime he wants in order to keep that relationship, to keep that unification there. He has not done so. Not one time since my daughter and grandson have come home, since the order was set that they were allowed to come home. He has only attempted to exercise his parenting time 2 times. One was last spring and one was just a few days ago. Last spring, he said that he came out here to Washington to see, I'm going to fly out and see him. And the order, the rules that the judge set forth for him to exercise his parenting plan are as follows. He is allowed to come and see him, and to take him for, 1 week at a time, as long as it works out for school and, my daughter's schedule and everything. He can take him, he gets 3 non-consecutive weeks between now and the summertime. He sent my daughter, and he has to give her 30 days at least notice before he can take him. So he sent my daughter a message in January, 30 days ago, saying, I'm going to come and pick him up at such and such time. Meet me at the airport. Not, does this work out for your schedule? What's a good time? Let's try to work this out. Nope, I'm going to be there. My daughter responded saying, I need some more information than that. And I need you to please start calling him and talking to him so that he knows who you are, because he is now 4.5 years old and you are a stranger to him. You've made no attempt to talk to him, to have any reunification process. He does not know you. So long story short, I'm telling you all of this to tell you that yesterday, with no notice, this monster filed another habeas corpus because he said my daughter was keeping my grandson from him, and he filed a writ of habeas corpus and was able to take my grandson for a whole week back to New Jersey. My grandson does not know him. My grandson does not know any of his family. He has no idea who he's with, and he is now across the country with a man that he doesn't know. He has no idea who any of the family members are, the area. He's absolutely terrified. And a judge that doesn't know us, doesn't know the situation, forced us to hand this child over when we've done nothing wrong. We've tried to save and protect my grandson at every opportunity, at every cost. We have tried everything to protect him. And all we get is these judges and attorneys trying to absolutely advocate for this monster. This monster seems to get away with murder. He did get away with murder. And why does he have access to a young child, to any child, after what he has done? I tried to plead with the officer yesterday who called me and said, you need to make sure your daughter and grandson are down here because they have to go before the judge. we have court in 2 days because my daughter filed to have in New Jersey, because New Jersey has jurisdiction over this case, not the state we live in. And we have filed to get the visitation supervised until a reunification process has happened. So who knows what's going to happen with that case tomorrow. But anyways, I am reaching out to YouTube land because I don't know where else to turn. Myself and my mother and my daughter, we have paid thousands upon thousands of dollars in attorney's fees. We have no more money. We have no more resources. We don't know what to do anymore to get this monster away from my grandson and to protect him and protect my daughter. This monster only wants to harass my daughter. This is not about him missing his son so much. If he missed his son and wanted to have a real loving fatherly relationship with his son, he would call him, he would Skype him, he would utilize all of those opportunities that are available to him and all of those tools available to him to speak with and reunify and get to know his son. He has done nothing. This is only a ploy and a plot for him to force my daughter what he wants. He's tried to appeal. He has appealed this order, the custody order, 4 times in the appellate court and been denied every time. He's trying to get the order overturned so that he can get custody of my grandson and so that he can make my daughter move back to New Jersey and force my daughter to go back with him in order to see her son. That's his plan. And I want to know why. Why is this individual being allowed to do this, to re-victimize my daughter and my grandson and our family over and over again? We are the victims. My daughter is the ultimate victim of this monster, and yet she can't get away from him. The judges keep absolutely putting this man, giving him every opportunity and just ignoring the victim that is my daughter. This is absolutely outrageous. I cannot believe that this is happening in 2019 in America. That a child predator, an internet predator who absolutely insidiously sought out my young daughter, groomed her, raped her, took away her high school experience, took away her first sexual experience and turned it into something dirty and awful. He robbed her of those basic childhood joys. She did not get to go to prom. She did not get to graduate with her friends. She didn't get to do any of those things because her mind was completely taken over by this absolute monster. And I want to know, are there any resources? Does anyone out there in YouTube land know of any networking, of anyone we can talk to? Is there anyone that can help us get this individual out of our lives and keep him at bay? And I understand that he is the father of my grandson, but just because he is the biological father does not mean that he is a safe and honorable person, and does not mean that he should have access to any child, let alone his own children. This man he's terrifying. He's terrifying. I ask that anyone watching this, please comment, please like, please subscribe. Please start a discussion so that we can try to make a difference and try to get these monster creeps off the street and away from our children. Some, sex offenders, people that are convicted sex offenders are not allowed near children. They're not allowed near their own children. This man should not be allowed near any children. And now he has my grandson for 1 week all the way across the country, where we are not allowed to even talk to him. We've tried to call. He won't even allow my daughter to talk to him. He's breaking the parenting plan again by not allowing my daughter to know and speak to her son and know if he's safe. And I want to know why. I want to know what gives this individual the right to do this. If anyone can answer my questions, if anyone can help, I absolutely would love to hear your comments and would love to talk about this and get this discussion going. I apologize for my excessive use of ums and I's and ands. but I'm not a professional speaker. But please comment, like, share, and subscribe. And we have court tomorrow. I will come back on with another video tomorrow, updating you all. Whoever watches this, I will update my channel with the next episode in this horrible nightmare saga. Please pray for my grandson. Please pray for my daughter. Please keep our family in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you and have a good night.